Hi singers, thank you so much for joining me. Today's video is a deep dive into the Nobble lift exercise. So I will explain what Nobbles are in a moment, but let's begin by talking about why you might need to lift your Nobbles. So if you are a person who either drives a car, if you work at a computer, or if you hold a heavy coral folder, which probably comprises everyone who's watching right now, then you may find that your posture may fall from time to time into this orientation. So as you can see, my head has come quite forward of the shoulders. And so as a result, I'm having to, in order to be able to see in front of me, I'm really putting a very extreme curve in the back of the neck. The muscles in the front of the neck, right around the larynx, are quite stretched and tight. And there's also a curvature down the spine. So basically all of the muscles in the neck and all the way down through the supporting core of the body are having to compensate for this poor alignment in order to keep me upright. So I want to point out that not everybody falls into this non-ideal posture because of slouching or slumping. It can also happen for the very best intentional reasons. And that is when we are singing in a choir, we might get a beautiful lined up posture at the start. And then as we begin to sing, we may start to crane the chin forward, maybe in an attempt to express something, perhaps if you're trying to connect with your audience or to your conductor. This happens so frequently. And so it may not manifest necessarily as a really slumped position, but perhaps in just a craning of the chin outward and upward. So take a look at what this might look like. The result is almost the same. So there's a very easy fix for both of these situations, and it is what I call the Nobble lift. Let's get into it. Now, I want you to begin by putting your fingers on the bony ridge right behind your ears. And we're gonna just sort of work the fingers back and down along the lower edge of the skull. So there, you might find a sort of solid ridge, or on my skull, I feel sort of two knobby parts. And those are what I call the Nobbles, and that's exactly the perfect place to put the fingers and then to lift directly upward. We're not pushing forward, we're not sort of trying to purposefully change the tilt of the head, we're just pushing up. Now, the reason this works as a corrective is if we're in this slumped position and we try to just push the chin backward, we end up with an extremely squashed neck. And you can hear how weird my voice sounds. It doesn't feel very comfortable either. So instead, let's address that crink in the neck by actually lifting upward. So check this out. I'm going to put my fingers actually slightly forward of where they would be on yourself, just so that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to begin here by just starting to push straight up. Now, as I push directly upward, the back of the neck has to lengthen. The crown of the head goes straight up toward the ceiling. And then as I continue, just until I feel like I'm really truly elongated, what I get is a whole cascading effect down the body. So I feel, number one, the head sort of comes up and back so that the ears are really over the shoulders. I also feel the back of the neck is really long. And very importantly, I feel that the chin actually comes down somewhat so that my eye gaze is really neutral and straightforward, not a sort of upward gaze, but really quite level, sort of parallel to the ground. And as I do it, watch what's happening here in the upper chest and the chin. If I'm slumped, there's a very long distance between chin and chest, but as I lift upward, you can see the breastbone rises and the chin sort of comes to a neutral kind of lower position. So what I end up with is actually a shorter distance between chin and collarbone, and the front of the neck becomes quite soft. Not a pressured double chin, but in fact just very loose and soft so that all of those muscles around the larynx are able to be really soft and in a prepared position to jump into action should they be needed, or to stay relaxed, which might be ideal. Now let's look at a few more of the effects down the body, because I actually don't feel like the effects of the Nobble lift stop at the collarbone. As I continue down the body, I really feel that there is a lengthening down the back body. So this way, I feel that the spine is really lengthening down, and there's kind of a lengthening downward, even down to the tailbone. Now, it can be tempting sometimes, and you'll see this if I'm demonstrating poorly. Sometimes I have a tendency to go like this. Now, what you can see here is that I've achieved sort of a sway back position, and that's not really a true lengthening. If I keep going, I feel that the back of the ribs wants to just lengthen up away from the hips, and the tailbone drops naturally. That's a more ideal position. I will state, we're not going for totally ramrod straight here, either in the spine itself, which is just not its natural position, or in the whole body position. So we don't want this sort of tin soldier ramrod straight look. We just want, our ultimate goal here is to be in a position where the weight is distributed right down through the skeleton into the ground, and that way we are releasing any of the soft tissues, the muscles, that might need to be called on for movement, for expression, for breathing, any of these things. So my ideal posture is one where the body is aligned and balanced on the skeleton, and that all of the muscles of the body are made flexible and available for use in your singing. So I encourage you to try this exercise. Why don't we do it one more time together before we stop? So just stand to the side. You don't need to exacerbate this kind of slumping position. Almost everybody can use a little Nobble lift. So find those little knobs in the back of the skull and gently upward. Crown reaches toward the ceiling, back of the neck lengthens, back of the ribs lengthen downward, but then the whole rib cage might pull up slightly off of the hip girdle, and the tailbone lengthens down. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this has been helpful for you, and thank you for practicing.